Set your clock. It is exactly 15 minutes after the hour here, so 15 minutes away from opening our grain and livestock trade on this crop report Wednesday. Had crop progress Tuesday. I try to give names every day, but they do work today here with the crop report coming out here. Rich Nelson joining us from our friends at Allendale, kind of a lead-off hitter each and every morning here. Rich, always good to have you here to lead things off for us. We do have the crop report this morning. You and I were talking, I'm not sure, maybe just 2 or 3 minutes for traders like yourself, to an analyst, to look at those numbers and then move over to the next updated weather forecast.
I think that might be the case here. And we have to consider the fact that this July 12th report here today is not a true measure of what's actually out in the field as far as acres or yield. This is more or less an administrative report. USDA will address these yield issues, which are very valid concerns here on the August supply-demand report when they do their first in-field yield checks, as well as the first farmer survey on yields as well.
And with the crop being delayed, that normally you get a pretty good feel on the corn crop here when they go across, because they're doing those surveys. I believe they'll start maybe late next week. Last 10 days of July, obviously, get that ready for the first week of August. They're going to see a crop, obviously, they already know, that's way behind in its maturity.
They certainly will, and especially for the Eastern Corn Belt. We're running roughly about 2 to 5 days behind right now. A lot of producers tell us it's even more than that. And this is an issue which is going to be a surprise here for us, because usually we have more of a mid-July based pollination. This year certainly is a later July pollination, which in some northern states will maybe actually bleed into August a little more than we normally would be at this time.
Now, will those crop scouts go back out again in August for the September update?
You know, they certainly will. And what they do right now for certainly the August supply-demand report, the survey we're talking about here in a couple of weeks, this one is more of a survey based on maturity. So in the southern states, the crop will be mature enough to do full kernel counts and ear analysis. For up here in the Midwest, we're looking more or less at just ear population counts for this August survey, at least.
And I would think plant population all of a sudden may come into view. They, you know, from the field, looks like maybe you've got a uniform field, but there's a lot of empty spaces, open spaces here where the crop ground early, perhaps, or for whatever reason, there's a lot of open space, I'll call it.
That's a great point here. So we actually won't be able to get an idea as far as how successful this pollination will be here in these next couple of weeks, really until the August, or actually the late August survey, which is going to be for the September supply-demand report.
Exactly, yeah. Now, we also, of course, it's a supply-demand update later today, and we don't want to, that may be the area where you do spend some time looking at the stocks number, because they do have a handle on how much there is out there, and the average estimate for corn is that we've got about 2.3 billion bushels of corn on hand here in the U.S.
That's exactly right here. So certainly as far as the old crop stock situation, these are fact-based issues. We know that June 30th grain stocks report did find a little more old crop around for corn, a little less for soybeans. We should see that reflected on the old crop changes here today from USDA.
Yeah, average there for corn, I've mentioned 2.3 billion. The average estimate for soybeans coming into the day, 434 million. They were at 450, I believe, in June. And then the wheat stocks at 1.18. So, again, we'll get a better handle, I would think, besides weather. Those stock numbers might be important to look at today, Rich.
Certainly the case, and also we probably won't see too much interest in the South American production changes, but that will be a secondary issue to look at as well.
Very good. Rich, we'll take a break, come back, and we're about 10, 12 minutes away from opening our livestock trade, but I know you have thoughts in the cattle. Turnaround Tuesday yesterday. We'll see what your thoughts are. Rich Nelson joining us from Allendale, looking at the livestock trade coming back. Back with Rich Nelson from Allendale, looking at the livestock trade now, 10 minutes away from opening our trade this morning. Wow, what a turnaround yesterday. Rich, maybe just a little bit overdone. Was it that simple?
The case here for right now. Obviously, we have seen some wholesale pork action still supporting this market here. And in fact, putting some new highs there. One thing we're looking at on the pork side for discussion, we know we are at the summer high end of the price range, and we do have some pretty good profits right now by producers. Summer marketing is roughly $41 to $50 per head in net profits here. So on the hog side, our discussion point is, well, we probably haven't got an exact top end for these markets yet, but it's probably something we got to look at as far as locking in some profits for the coming fourth quarter numbers.
Let's take a look at those cutouts here. Beef, first of all, we'll go take one step back here and look at the beef cutout. Down over $2 here for choice and select as we start the day here, Rich. And so again, coming off some 2-year highs, so don't expect it to stay up there forever.
I think that's certainly a very good point. And one thing you did mention yesterday, which is a very valid discussion issue, is after several days of almost 100, or in fact 100 degrees, many of these guys in the plains are looking at maybe a declining weight situation,
sure,
or maybe a small lower offerings here. So maybe on the cattle side, we might be able to trade cash cattle, maybe even steady this week after so many weeks of lower pricing going on.
We do have the Fed Cattle Exchange at 10 o'clock Central Time today. I think they have about 2,600 head listed on the auction for today. Over on the pork side, you've already alluded to the wholesale pork trade. Interesting that most of those numbers higher. Of course, they're helped out by the futures. Maybe they help futures, but again, nonetheless, still above 105 on the overall carcass cutout.
Certainly amazing numbers right now. What we are discussing here as far as the industry on the hog side, looks like we do have a light Saturday slaughter lined up, only 30 to 35,000 head. Numbers will still be relatively trim on the slaughter side. Probably won't see numbers build up from here on out, though, maybe until another week or two after this point. So short term, still tight supplies. Let's see how long it lasts.
Exactly right. And we know that the weights have been steady to a little bit weaker, lower, I should say, Iowa, Minnesota average weight. So producers keeping hogs moving, and they're affected by this hot weather. It's going to be in the hundreds in the Dakotas and Minnesota here as well.
It certainly is, and a lot of this barn technology has improved in the past over the past 20 years. So it may not have as much of a major impact as it used to, but certainly something which will be reflected in some marketing aggressiveness here today in the next few days.
Very good. I'm going to get the cash numbers here for our folks here, and a look at that cattle trade as well. Rich, thanks for your time as always. We look forward to keeping in touch. And in fact, talk tomorrow morning.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Rich Nelson from Allendale joining us every morning to lead things off here on the day. We mentioned those cash prices for hogs. Take a look at the cash hog price here around the country. Some averages here on the cash and the carcass trade. Our national average here, and a little bit higher here, about 36 cents better on a carcass basis, and actually about $1 lower when you look at the cash market here. Most of the hogs moving, of course, on a daily basis on that carcass basis here. 86.87 on an average nationally on a carcass trade. 68.70 on average for a cash price. And you move to Iowa, Minnesota, and that price, we mentioned those weights here. We'll keep an eye on that, get an update this week. 87.72, and that was compared to the day before, pretty steady, maybe a dime better. And the cash trade here at 69.15. So, Janet, we'll be watching, of course, the livestock trade, keeping an eye on all those grain numbers as well later today.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, you bet.